All right, let's take a look at the next slide. On number 8 and on number 9, the instructions say to write each interval as an inequality and to graph the solution. All right, we need to talk about the notation that you're seeing here just a little bit. The parenthesis that you see on the left, the bracket you see on the right, and the bracket means inclusive, where the parentheses means not inclusive or not included. Kind of like me in the third grade recess. Oh, sorry, I was joking about that. Okay, so here we go. Write as an inequality. This is an and statement when you see it like this, and I would write it like this. -1 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 10. Again, I knew to use less than because -1 was not included, so x has to be more than -1. And 10 was included, so I know x has to be less than or equal to perhaps 10. Now, I'm going to go ahead and decide that that would be 0, which is going to make this right here -1. And just because I need to prove that I actually do know how to count spaces, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And hopefully I did it right. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So there's 10. We should have a filled in circle right here, open circle here, and we connect. That's what the graph would look like. All right, let's take a look at number 9. This is an or statement. -infinity to 0 or 5 to infinity. And actually, again, we have kind of a strange thing going on here. -infinity can't be inclusive, so I'm going to change that to a parenthesis, and I'm going to change a 0 to a bracket just so we do have to consider that scenario again. Sorry about that. I'm going to blame Jameson for these mistakes. Those are his fault. Okay, so -infinity to 0, we would say essentially that x is less than or equal to 0, or, and 5 to infinity, not inclusive of either end, x is greater than 5. And just for clarification, the reason you can't include -infinity, it's not really a number, it's an idea. That's a whole different discussion that gets a lot deeper, and we're not going to do that on these notes because it's not really important right now. What's important is that you know how to label things properly. So here we go. X is less than or equal to 0. I'm going to do a closed circle at 0 because I've decided to include it. And x is greater than 5. So we'll have an open circle, arrow goes to the right, and it would look something like that. Now the key is the word or. Because it's an or, the answer can be here or here. It doesn't matter which. If the word was and, we'd have a problem because there'd be no overlap. All right, 10 and 11, we're actually working the opposite direction. Instead of starting an interval notation and changing it to an inequality, we're starting with an inequality and we're going to write it in interval notation. So this says x is less than -2. So I know that the largest number it can be is less than -2. So and the smallest would be anything smaller than that. So it's going to start at -infinity, stop at -2. We've already talked about you can't include infinity. And in this case, it says less than, so it's not including -2 either. And I'm going to decide, just because I can, that that's -2. Open circle, arrow goes left, and it looks like that. That's a pretty fast one. Here's another one. X is less than -2, or x is greater than or equal to 1. All right, so x is less than -2. We've actually done that already, haven't we? That means -infinity to 2, non-inclusive. Or x is greater than 1. So what I'm going to do is say x would start at 1. It includes 1, so I'm done the bracket. And it stops at, well, never. So I'm going to say to infinity and beyond for you Toy Story fans. All right, so here we go. There is -1. That means this right here would be -2. We should have an open circle. Arrow goes left. And then at +1, right over here, we'd have a filled in circle, a closed circle, arrow going right. That's a beautiful arrow, isn't it? All right, last problem. To earn a B in your biology class, you must get a test average between 84 and 86, including either end. You scored 86, 85, and 80 on the first three tests. What possible score can you earn on the fourth and final test to earn a B in the class? Well, first things first, that's a capital Y. Okay. Again, that's Jameson's fault for sure. So here we go. We need to average between 84 and 86 on our tests to be able to get a B in the class. Otherwise, our quiz and homework scores are going to pull us down too much. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say 84. I'm going to do it as a compound inequality here, is less than or equal to. Now we have to think about how we do average. Average is you add them together, so 86 plus 85 plus 80 plus, and this is our unknown test, the test we haven't taken yet. So we've got 4 tests here. So we have to divide by 4 because it is in fact an average we're looking for, and we know then it has to be less than 86. Now on this one we can use that shortcut method, and we'll test my mental math skills just a bit here, but I'm going to multiply everything by 4. 84 times 4 is 336, which is less than or equal to, and I'm going to go ahead and add these. That's 240 plus 11, so that's 251 plus x, and remember we multiplied by 4, so that 4 in the denominator is gone. Now I'm multiplying this by 4, that's 320 plus plus 24, so that would be 344. And then of course the last step is to subtract 251. That would give me 85 less than equal to x less than equal to 93. So the test score would need to be between 85 and 93. We'd sure hate for it to be higher than that. Otherwise, we could end up, I suppose, earning an A in the class. And as we all know, that would be pretty rough in the situation. In any case, I hope these notes have gone well for you. I hope you picked up some of the concepts and also cleaned up some of my errors that aren't my fault. You guys have a spectacular day. Come ready to work.